Hello, hello, hello. I am Dr. Andrea Greiner.
And I'm Katie Corbin.
Welcome to the Dreams to Dollars podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs and professionals who are on their way to actualizing their dreams into reality.
Join us in this lighthearted and unique podcast where we talk about business, success, life, and building a deeper trust in God and the universe.
We are here to elevate the conversation and bring the magic to build your legacy.
We're excited for you to be here. Can't wait to dive in.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to this episode, which is all about the entrepreneur versus the hobbyist, and a delicious conversation that really allows you to open up. And Katie and I are here for the dreamers, and we're also here for the entrepreneurs that are CEOs in their business that want to create massive change and momentum in the planet and also in their business. So it's a topic that as Katie and I build our businesses on social media, it really comes up as it might be triggering, and it also might have you saying, yes, because I totally get that, like you are here as that viewer and you're like, absolutely, I get it, because there's also these hobbyists, and there's nothing against the hobbyist. Actually, it would be better if you are a hobbyist to just claim that you're a hobbyist, like, oh, I'm here because it's fun to be in my business and I like doing sessions here and there, but I'm not really here to like make $1 million or beyond, above and beyond, right? So where, I guess, even just like distinguishing, like, where are you on that spectrum? Because claiming it can do so much for you, right? Or even be like, oh yeah, I am a hobbyist, and that's okay too, right? Like, we're here for all of it. And where are you? And Katie, take us deeper into this.
Yeah, it's really easy to start a business in 2024, right? So it's been easy since the age of the internet and since social media to just claim that you offer sessions or you offer a product or you offer these things, and it's really easy to create a business now, right? It's not like 100 years ago where you had to get funding and there was no online businesses and you had to have a store or have a factory or create a product or these things. So the truth is most businesses aren't necessarily making the money that they desire, right? They might say like, "Oh, I'm a creator, I'm a content creator, or I offer sessions or these other things," but in the back end, they're actually not creating the revenue. They're just calling themselves, "I have this business," right? So the truth is again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like you can't grow a business unless you're facing the reality that you're actually at right now. So if you are like sort of at the groundwork, and even if you've been at the groundwork for years and years and you're not really gaining leverage in your business, like just admit that. Like just say like, yeah, maybe it has been a hobby. I haven't gone all the way in. I haven't invested in myself like I wanted to. Maybe I have invested and I'm in debt because I've invested in all these programs or these things. And now I'm in $50,000 of debt and I'm not making any money. Right. So it can be kind of triggering to come to Jesus in these moments. But the truth is, if you don't know where you are right now, you're not going to be able to build off of that. If you're building off of this like pseudo reality, this false state of reality, you can have this big vision, but you're never going to get to it because you don't know where you are right now in this moment. So this is also really interesting as well, because a lot of people that come into our realm and our world too as well are actual business owners, right? And are making substantial money and their business has paid their bills since they, maybe not since conception, but since they've gotten out of the red. It funds their dreams. It funds their house. It funds their vacation. It funds their retirement. It funds all these things, right? And it has for years. And then they'll also look outside of them and see these other people that are creating these like pseudo businesses. And there's nothing wrong with it. You can just go like, well, this is my creation. It's an actual business and an actual company. And it actually brings in revenue and it pays myself and employees and all these things. And then there's not much distinguishation, I mean, outside of us, where somebody else could look at somebody that doesn't do that and they're like, they're in debt and they're funding a hobby and they're, just throwing out offers for this and that and just going like, please, somebody buy my stuff, right? And it's actually like it can be a little bit distracting, right? For creative actual entrepreneurs to see a lot of this stuff and going like, I wonder if this person's actually like has a business and they're really making money with their business, or they're sort of just throwing things out there and hoping that, they make a little bit of money off of it, right? And there's nothing wrong with making a little bit of money or having a gig work or having a hobby or something like that. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's a big distinguisher between an actual CEO of a company that leads the company, has the vision. Maybe you are the face of the company, the brand, all that stuff. There's a big difference between that and somebody that's just sort of turning their wheels, not actually creating much out of their business. I want to say financially, personally, or professionally.
Yeah, and I love what you talked about, Katie, about like creating clarity is so huge. It's so underrated. Like Katie and I were like all about clarity and like consistency. And sometimes that might all seem really boring, but even if you're working on money in your business or visioning, like where are you? Like it's hard to vision if you don't know where you are on planet Earth and you're like, I'm on the moon and I'm gonna go to, it's like, no, no, no. We're like, Katie and I love woo, man. We are spiritual, we're all about God consciousness and all of that and energy. And it's hard to create that if you're not in that clarity of where are you? Sort of like, where are you? And because even in some close relationships, I'll share a bit about like a story about two close relationships I have where people didn't have the clarity in the finances and they got totally screwed over too.
Yeah.
Like didn't even know, made millions in a business and then got paid, what was it? Like a tenth of what they made, and just totally demolished their dream in that moment of what they were creating or what they thought. Like why have that if you get paid a tenth of what you created for a business? Like that, it was like insanity. And then also, someone else close to me had that they weren't aware of the finances. There wasn't clarity in their agreement. And then there was like, well, now you owe us $60,000, but there was no clarity in the roles and then also the financial, that both these parties weren't privy to the financial aspect of your business. Like from my point of view, and Katie, like as a CEO, I know where my finances are and I know what I'm building to and maybe what I'm building back as far as paying past expenditures so that like as a business it's moving as a unit. And so that's how many people skip over the numbers, they're avoiding the numbers, they're whatever with the numbers, or they're so ashamed and they either haven't decided they have a hobby or decided to fucking claim their business, right? As that no, I am not a hobbyist. I
Yes.
am here to like, and I don't like the word conquer the world, but like pretty much own your dream and your vision to create, that multi-million dollar business that's here, right? So it's interesting because this is kind of like a bit backwards, but like that clarity and the financial aspects. You wouldn't want to run a business for a year and not know where you were financially. And then wait till the end of
Right.
the year, you're like, oh, I'm 600,000 behind. Oh shit.
Right.
Like whatever it is, right?
Yeah. It's sort of like rooting, right? Coming from a place of like reality. Because
Yeah.
that's the thing about dreams, right? Dreams can sort of take us off into netherland. Like I dream, I want to manifest, I have a vision board, I know it's going to happen, all these things. But what are you doing on the other side to actually create that to happen? And if you're not clear on that, well, I want to have a multi-million dollar business, but I'm actually a hobbyist. Those are those
Yeah.
are actually totally different tracks, right? Like they're
Yeah.
totally different tracks. And really, I think it actually somewhat does people a disservice by saying like, "Oh yeah, just go for your dreams. I believe in you." And of course, we need to cultivate self-belief in ourselves, and then that's always an inner cultivation process. But at the same time, if you're not rooted and grounded in actually your reality that you are now, like you're a hobbyist, but you want a multi-million dollar business, they're likely, right? Maybe you're one in a very lucky few that create that, but it doesn't mean it's not supportive or conducive, right? Like like you coming to Jesus and going, realizing that, God, I am a hobbyist. Like, like it's like you almost need to come to Jesus on that and go like, do I want to continue to be this or do I want to create the business? And what is it going to take to actually create the business I desire, right? What revenue? What are you selling, right? How are you selling it? How are you packaging? What are your products? What are your services? What are your, whatever, right? Online, offline, doesn't matter. But if you don't have that built in and you're not creating this momentum month to month where you're turning over revenue, right? Like even if you have a business that launches and then you make this big amount of money and then you're sort of off the rest of the year. It doesn't matter, but you need to have a plan around this. Otherwise, you tend to go towards hobbyist, pseudo business person.
Yeah.
And it sucks, right?
And
Like it's almost like it's sort of like a tough love thing. It like
yeah.
I'm like, you can be really compassionate in those tough love spaces. But the truth is, if you're not making money in your business and you're not getting right, like you're not turning over revenue, you're in the red, you're actually spending more money on certifications or coaching programs or another a degree or you can name a million things
Yeah.
and you're not turning over a revenue, your business is leaking energy, money, and almost like time out of your life. And is that even like what's the purpose of that? You could say, well, I like to do that. Well, that's okay. But for me, I feel like that wouldn't create a lot of purpose if it's not, even creating impact. Like, how can you create impact if you are bleeding yourself dry and poking holes in yourself and you're not making the money that you desire? How can you actually create an impact that you desire
Yeah.
if your energy is constantly leaking out the other end or your money is constantly like you can't, you're going to burn out.
Yeah, it's like I totally agree because if you were to claim the hobby role, you would actually feel so much freer. Like, let's say husband or partner makes all the money and you don't need to make money in your business, but then you claim it as a hobby. Like, almost, it's funny because like people that are like, oh yeah, then they actually start making money because
Right.
they're like, oh,
Yes.
this is a hobby. But
It
then
can
it's like
shift.
you take all the pressure off and it can
Yep.
like absolutely shift
Yep.
because you're just like, oh yeah, this is just a hobby. And if I get a client a month, great. But like, I don't have to put this pressure on myself, right? It's almost like the claiming of the hobby will be like, huh. And then you're like, oh, I don't have to spend so much money in that program or that certification. Now I'm all about it. Sometimes your business is like, yes, go, I'm doing a certification, but it's actually to see how I would roll mine, not to copy, but it's like I'll take in information and then I could be like, oh, this would be so much smoother, right? So I'm
Yeah.
not doing it from a proving point of view, and you can certainly we have a lot of proving, in the clinical medical healer world of like, oh, if I'm that certification, I'll be X, Y, and Z. So there's times where like that type of investment makes sense, but also there's a lot of seeking of like, oh, if I have that, then I'll be this. Like that to me is like, if I have that, or if I purchase that, I'll be this. Like that's then you get a little lost in that. But like the hobby, like what if you were to just say, yeah, I'm a hobbyist and take all that pressure off of yourself? And
Right.
like
And
actually claim it, people would be like, oh, like you, and you're like, I only have one room for one client a month because that's I mean, you might not say I'm a hobbyist in your business, but
yeah.
it would inwardly take off that pressure.
And the other part is too, is if you do say that, or you say, no, I'm definitely not a hobbyist, I'm an entrepreneur, you have to claim that.
Yeah.
You have to be like, oh my God, I need to claim this space and I need to it helps you actually step into your power. When you recognize where you are, it actually helps you to step in because if you're sort of out there and you're not actually recognizing where you are in reality, you can't really step into that next space. So if you are an entrepreneur and you're like, no, I'm really an entrepreneur. I'm a CEO. I've been doing this X amount of years. I've been making money off of it. It pays my bills, it pays my vacations, it pays all these things and it impacts people obviously, right? It's not just about the money, it's making these impacts, you're getting results, you're getting everything in your business, but you actually like go like, no, I'm not a hobbyist, I'm really an entrepreneur. And then how do you even step more into that CEO hat going like it's almost like stepping into that power of that space of you and then like what is your next step in business, right? You could also see these people that are maybe hobbyists and just like, you can wish them well and that's okay. That's fine. But it actually helps you step up into that space as you as the CEO, as you as the full blown entrepreneur, as seeing money that's coming out even outside of you, that you're not like the only solo person in the business and that's the only way the business runs, right? So it actually like differentiating this is a really great service because you can choose. You can go like, God, no, I'm really the CEO. This is my role. And I have to step more into that and more into that and more into that versus, the hobbyist can even go like, oh God, I am a hobbyist. How do I step into the CEO role? How do I
Yeah.
step into that role? And how do I recognize what do I have to do that if I don't want it to be a hobby anymore? If I don't even there's many I've even spoken, or heard is like people where they're just investing in these programs to sort of be the entrepreneur and they're going into putting stuff on credit cards and going into debt. Nothing wrong with credit cards or debt. Trust me. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But like if you're not making revenue on the back end, again, it's just going to bleed you dry. And
Well,
then
and like
you're
how
gonna end
Katie,
up
how
giving
many
up.
we've how many coaches, clients have we talked to that are like in the red because they did that? I heavily invested in 2020 because I jumped online and I invested into two programs. I was able to make that, but I also met many people from 2020 that did not like they were investing, but then never even 3 years, here we are 3 years, well now 4 years later, there's like they're in the same
Nothing to
place.
show for it,
Nothing,
right? Like,
nothing, nothing.
that's
Oh
the
my God.
saddest thing. That is, like, the saddest thing. You're
Yeah,
like, you're actually put behind further than ahead, and then
yeah,
you're like, "Oh my god," even shame and, disappointment and all these things, and it is hard to reinvent yourself from that, like, place of, like, disappointment and shame. Like, it's almost like you have to really rise out of the ashes. It's not just like the phoenix rising, it's
yeah,
almost like you have to unbury yourself from, like, years of muck and then come out of that finally, like, it is
yeah,
harder. So,
yeah,
just recognizing where you are in this moment right now,
yeah,
going like, I'm a CEO and I'm going to step into that even more this year. What is it going to be
yeah,
required of me? And then also if the hobbyist, right? Like saying like, okay, I'm a hobbyist. That's cool. Let me make this my hobby. Or I'm a hobbyist, but I want to be a CEO. And like, what is it going to take for me to do that?
yeah.
Right. And even
Well,
if you're
because
a
even a
hobbyist,
hobbyist could, yeah,
right,
you could have like like I want to make $1,000 because I want to buy my vitamins and supplements, right? It's
and there's
like
nothing wrong with
you
that.
would be freer. Yeah, you
Yeah.
would be freer if you just said, like we have a couple clients that not that they would say they're hobbyists, but it's like we've been like, what if you just like relaxed and just said, husband's making that for now, and you like gave yourself the space and there's nothing wrong with we obviously work with the ones that want to create more and more, and you would find the freedom if you just said, yeah, I am that,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. And
and
even if
again,
you
just like Katie said, I
contribute,
love it's like
right? It's like even
right,
if you contribute, you say like, okay, I do have this sort of small like business that does create some money, right? I would say like if you're creating decent money in your business, you're going to go more into the CEO category, right? Like you're
yeah,
not like bleeding money and you're not just, putting money into it and then just like making no money at the end of the year. You're like a zero or less. It's like you can actually contribute and then your business can grow off of that. It's not like all of a sudden if somebody drops into as an entrepreneur hat and they're like at six figures, doesn't mean it can't happen. But, if you're like a new brand new entrepreneur, maybe you make 20 or $30,000 in your first year, right? Like profit. And then you make
yeah,
50 to 60. And then the
yeah,
next year you
yeah,
make 60 to 70. And then the next year you make 80 to 90. And then the third you pass the six figure and then you make half a million. Like it can take time, but you want to define like what are you? Right?
yeah,
Like, what are you?
yeah,
And what is your plan for the future? Is your plan to actually create a business that you love and reach your dreams and create a plan? Or is that really not important to you? Right? Or I'm not saying like it's not of importance, but what matters to you? Maybe it's just making a little bit of money and creating a little bit of impact on the people around you. There's nothing wrong with that. But I would say like you want to distinguish yourself a little bit better so you can choose to grow outside of that or not. And then that's ultimately your choice.
yeah. And that was the other thing I wanted to bring up in this conversation, because even as CEOs, like it's not everything can come each year. Like Katie and I talk a lot about visioning and what's your first quarter target and your second quarter and third quarter and fourth quarter. And sometimes we can get a lot of these ideas, and then it's like you think you have to implement them all at once, which can overwhelm you. And also
Yes.
financially, like I've got this financial clarity of like you might not like rolling out a business sometimes isn't perfect, and you're like,
Yes.
wow,
Yes.
this year I got a bookkeeper and I
Mhm.
filed my taxes on time, and you're
Yeah.
like, cool, check mark. And then you're like, next year I'm going to make sure I save the money for my taxes. Like like it doesn't have to look perfect. And I think that we work with a lot of perfectionists, and we're clinicians, we're doctors, we like want it all to like look shiny and happy at that first round. But it's like sometimes it's like, okay, this year I'm adding this,
Yeah.
and it's like getting it going. Okay, this year my money target is like more into savings or more into investing in
Yeah.
big property or whatever it is. It doesn't, like, I think there's like a discrepancy of like it all has to happen like this. And you can be a CEO with big visions and still, maybe you're not at $1 million, or your target is 500K this year, and like whatever, and know that like you're still building. Not everything has to happen all at once.
Yeah.
And there's almost, this divine timing in that. And I've really, I mean, I reckon each year I'm like, I learned something. I mean, all the time we're learning, and it's like not from a place of perfectionism, but like, oh, that's really doable this year. I have the energy for that. That makes sense to where my business is going. Okay, I'm going to add these programs that I'm creating. Then I'm going to take this because it doesn't feel like too much of a push or whatever. It's going to add to the business. And then I'm going to, these are my financial targets, so it's like just to also say like that bridge, because we typically have the CEOs. We have a few hobbyists that come in, but like really we're here for those dreamers, they're CEOs. And if you're a hobbyist being like, yes, I'm stepping into my CEO, right? Like just also know that like that there's seasons, right? There's these different stages that can really help you grow, and actually quite quicker when you recognize it doesn't all have to happen like that, you know?
Yeah, because business can be messy too, right? Like you're
Yeah.
growing. It's sort of like the concept of building the plane while you're flying it, right? You want some
Yeah.
foundations. You want to make sure the runway's there. You want to make sure you have sort
Yeah.
of a plan
You
and
need
like as you
wings. You need
right,
wings,
right. And as you lift off, right, it's like it doesn't need to be all perfect because there's even sometimes people can plan too much and get too in their
Yeah.
head and go like, I have this awesome product and bring it to the market, and the market's like crickets, and they're like, oh my god, I did all the marketing, I did the best website, I did all these things, and then it's crickets because it's like the plane isn't flying yet, right?
Yeah.
So it's like business can be a little bit messy, and you can it's almost just like the recognition of like where you are and then where are you going.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful concept because a lot of times we think that, oh, we're already there. When there's just so, sort of out there, right? There, and then we're there, and then we're at this other place. And, it's all speculation. But if you have an idea of like, here I am right now in my business, and this is what I made, and this is where I could do better. This, like a reflection. And then also like, where are you headed? Where do you want to go? And then what are the actions that
Yeah.
are required for you to do that? And sometimes it's slowing down and stepping out and going like, okay, so what do I really want to create, and getting more clear on your vision, right? So it can be very, very different. There's no one way of doing this. There's no one path that just like here's the way from A to B. There's many different ways to that destination, but I think the recognizing where you are in your company right now, even if it's like I'm not a hobbyist, I'm a CEO, where are you now? And then where are you going?
Yeah.
And that's really how you get to your dream. It's like there's the step and then you take the next step, and there's the step and then you take the next step. You can't maybe even see the whole staircase. The staircase could be way out.
You
You
don't. You don't. You
can't even see it, right? You can't even
you
see it,
don't.
but
You're just like,
but
yeah,
you're just
yeah,
stepping, right? You're stepping
yeah,
forth. Like I'm brave
yeah,
enough to take another step. I'm brave enough to take another step. I'm brave enough to take another step. Maybe even take a step back. So it's like, but you
yeah.
continue to step forward into that big dream. And that's really how people create their dreams into reality.
And I love this. I love this point too, because I have a really big dream. It's like a healing center, but that dream is also like $100 million investment. So that's out there like 10 years. And I've been thinking about that. And as I've been thinking about that, this other dream has been coming. That's almost like a stepping stone into that bigger one. And I hadn't even thought about this other one. And I was like, ooh, I was like, that's like that could be like 2 years out. And then it almost like this excitement has built because, and I'm already still getting downloads. And now I'm not shifting my dream. I see how this new one that's come in, because I've let that big one be. I haven't shut myself down. I'm like, okay, $100 million, that's gonna take some time and a little bit of like knowledge and meeting people and seeing some things, right? And and by keeping that in the space, now this other one has come that is actually, it's like it's like what are like a platform step, right? So then there's steps that are like, okay, now show me those steps there, because then I'm like, whoo, it reminds me of like one of those drawings where there's like that guy, MC Escher, right? So you go to a stairway and then you look and like there's another stairway and there's like another stairway, but you have those bigger dreams that then the littler dreams that will get you to those big dreams will come. And you're like, ooh, that one's really attainable. Oh, that's exciting. And that you want that excitement. Like for us, Katie and I, we love business. We love exciting. We love creating. And to me, it's like if it's not joyful and fun and like these ideas come, not that you have to go with every idea. Now that's what keeps me going. Like the excitement of creation and impact and like and also that that financial prosperity aspect, right? Like we create businesses that fund our lifestyle, because I can't create a business and be like, "Oh, I'm funded by my credit cards."
Right,
Like, I
yeah.
guess you could,
I'm
but like
funded by
for
this
me, that
this fake amount of
yes,
money, right? Like,
yes,
but the truth
yeah,
is sometimes there is also like there is a funding that takes place, right? There is a
yeah,
risk that
totally,
takes
yep,
place. There is a capital
investment,
venture that takes place to begin, and that's okay too, right? That's actually okay too. But we do want reaching those revenue goals and reaching those dreams and getting your profit margin larger and being able to fund the things including yourself, making the impact that you want to make on the clients that are going to come through your doors, right? And it all has
yeah,
to encompass it. It can't
yeah,
just be one thing, because that one, it's like a table leg where you only have like one leg. Your table's going to be pretty wobbly from standing, right? So it's important to look at this at a higher perspective and get really real with yourself this year, because I feel like when we can get really real with ourselves and look at where we are and where we're headed, it often grounds you much more into your reality. And then you can see things so much clearer, even if you're intuitive. It's not
yeah,
like you have to be this logical person. But if you can step into reality and just go, this is where I am, this is what I'm creating. And then where's the steps
yeah.
between to get to that creation ultimately. So, but we love this topic and we are so grateful for you guys listening to this. And we hope to see you in the next episode.
Yep. We'll see you soon. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you for listening to the Dreams to Dollars podcast. If you vibe with our content and want to find out how to work with us, check out our show notes for the links.